welcome to another episode of the Crispy Compact Communiqué. This time we are full 100% live. We're flying by the seat of our pants. Whatever happens in this episode stays in this episode. I'm Rich Liebig.
I'm Michael Costanzo.
And we are here to give you some interesting tidbits in the world of sports, entertainment, and odd news. Boy, there is a lot of news to get to. That is why we decided to make this a special Facebook Live episode. We want to hear from you in real time, so go ahead. If you've got any comments, let us know below. Or if you're listening to the podcast the day after, shoot us a tweeter. Shoot us a tweeter. Yes, that's how far we're going along right now. Shoot us a tweet or an email or something. Let us know what you think of our opinions. But before we get into all the news at hand, Mike, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I got a chance to finally finish Ghost of Tsushima this week. I actually wrapped it up like an hour ago before the show.
Oh, good timing.
Yeah, I was like, I got to finish it so I have something to talk about. It was a great game. What a great way for Sony to end the PlayStation 4 generation with this massive samurai open world action adventure game. It's about duty, honor, family, rebellion. You fight as a samurai torn between, his code as an honorable samurai and then needing to use subversive tactics to defeat the Mongols and push them off of his island of Tsushima. So he's trying to walk that line between doing the honorable thing and doing the thing that's most effective, which is like using poison and assassinations, which are considered dishonorable. And the whole thing runs parallel to his relationship with his family and how his diverging tactics drive a wedge between him and his family. So it's really interesting. It's not just, a typical open world game. It has a good bit of drama there. Very, very cinematic. Everything in the presentation is all about putting you in the moment, making you feel like you're part of like an old-fashioned samurai movie. It's fantastic. If you're looking for a good way to sink like 30, 40 hours into a beautiful, gorgeous open world, before the PlayStation 5 comes out, give Ghost of Tsushima a try. I'd give it like a solid 8.5 out of 10.
Hey, what's funny is when you tally the total hours played, you're just like, oh my god. But if the game is worth it, it's worth it for the entire length of it. I guess my companion piece to that is I'm playing the Outer Worlds right now, and it's been a blast.
That's another one, isn't it? That's another 30, 40 hour game. How are you liking that so far?
It's a massive game. The thing I hate about it is that it's like a nicer form of Mass Effect, and it's like, oh my god, I miss Mass Effect.
Yeah, I know.
So damn you, EA and BioWare and everything that happened with that. But eventually we'll get around, hopefully, to maybe future Mass Effect news. But nevertheless, the Outer Worlds is pretty good, and that's my companion piece to it. It's a massive game, but it's worth it. When you get a good game, the 30 or 40 hours they don't seem like that at all.
Yeah. You have to have a game that invests you in the world. You can really feel like you're living in that space.
Yeah. Okay. So that's our personal bit aside. We do have a lot of news to get to, and this first topic is just not easy to talk about, but we have to. I mean, it's pretty much the reason why we decided to do a Facebook Live video tonight. And that is because there's literally no sports pretty much happening. I mean, baseball, there's a few games happening, but the big ones, the basketball playoffs, the hockey playoffs, all have come to a screeching halt. These players in these leagues have decided to have a impromptu boycott in support of Black Lives Matter and the recent shootings that happened in Wisconsin, and it's just there's so much to unpack with this. I don't even know where should we even begin. It seemed like and the worst part is everything was happening like leading up to tonight. Between the fact hockey literally canceled all their games literally within 3 hours ago. The Flyers got their notice that their game wasn't happening. So,
And you know what? I hadn't even heard of the hockey thing. The first that I heard of it was that the Milwaukee Bucks were protesting by boycotting their playoff game. I mean, this is a team, one of the best in the league, that's willingly not showing up for a playoff game. That's a really big statement, and doing so because of the shooting of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin. Um,
yeah.
and so that prompts the NBA to delay the game, and I think other games were delayed as well because it has a ripple effect. And they held a meeting. Some teams like the Lakers and Clippers wanted to boycott the entire NBA season.
Yeah, so this is the meat of the story that I think is very telling. Is that late last night, the players got together in the bubble in Florida and had their own meeting, and they went over what they should do, what they're asking of people, and they held an impromptu vote with the teams remaining in the playoffs. Should we boycott the entire playoffs? Luckily, they all said no, except for the LA Clippers and the LA Lakers, which is a huge statement considering they're probably the favorites to win it all this year. And it seems like you've got guys like LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis that were willing to just throw it all away because of how egregious this incident is. It is this is a movement that is really shocking a lot of people. And
I mean, as it should, and props to those players for taking this stand. It's not an easy thing to do. This is their livelihood. You saw what happened in the NFL when players tried to stand up and demonstrate against issues like this. They get blacklisted. So for players to stand up and say, you know, we're not going to take it anymore, that's a big statement, especially in basketball. Basketball is a little bit more progressive than football, I think, because of the demographics and the cities that it's in. Football tends to trend more towards the conservative side of things, but it's not a liberal versus conservative thing. It's a justice thing, you know. And that's what the players are trying to get across, is that there are groups of people in this country, once again, who are disproportionately affected by things like systemic racism, police brutality, profiling, you know, the list goes on, and they've had enough. And this is how you get people to take notice, is when you take away their enjoyment, when you impact those things that they think are untouchable. You know, when all of a sudden there's no game, there's no ad revenue for showing it on TV. People are like, where's my sports? They go to turn on the TV and it's not there. People start taking notice, and sometimes people get upset. But I think it's important that, you know, you sort of every once in a while shock the general population into like, oh, these issues are real and they're serious and they continue to impact millions of people. So we can't just hide behind sports entertainment. You know, it's one of those things where we have to accept the fact that it can be a platform, and it should be a platform, because there's lots of people that look to their entertainers and their athletes for a moral compass of what to do. You know, it seems odd to say it, but it's true. A lot of us look to our entertainers and our athletes as public figures to, you know,
to look up to. Yeah, that's a fair assessment. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I gotta admit, for me being the LeBron hater of this podcast, that's a pretty big thing that LeBron James tried to do. I don't think he was actually going to go all the way to stop playing, period. But I'll tell you what, for him actually casting the vote and him trying to get in touch with Adam Silver and the owners, and him, I believe the quote from this meeting last night was, quote, he wanted the owners to be more involved.
Yeah.
It's very commendable that he's willing to put it on the line. I mean, he also doesn't have a whole lot of, like, I know this is going to sound funny, but he actually doesn't have a whole lot of seasons left if you think about the normal trajectory of a career NBA player. He probably only has 2 or 3 seasons where he's going to contend for the title. So for him to willingly throw one of those away because of how egregious this whole incident is. I got that's commendable. I was taken aback by it. So, kudos to LeBron for that.
Yeah.
But also, this whole thing is designed to be pure exposure for this cause, and I don't think that people have been shook yet, at least directly, because this just keeps happening, and that is cause for concern. And I know some people would say it's sports; it's not your place to get into
wrong.
Right. I know.
No. I mean, literally, factually, historically wrong. I mean,
I know.
From the Black Power salute in the Olympics to Jesse Owens beating the Third Reich to Colin Kaepernick taking a knee and sacrificing his career. I mean, they're just categorically, historically wrong.
Yes, I know, but some
Sorry,
people,
I was waiting to say that.
I know, right? Like, whoa, I'm not saying I believe in that.
No,
Mike coming at me with the hounds of justice, but it is important that the system gets shook, so that this awareness does spread. And one of the ways that I think it does is if you ask one of, for lack of a better word, ordinary people, but I don't mean ordinary. I mean someone who's not an athlete.
Casual bystanders.
Yeah, and someone who has almost a regular type life. I mean, I know. So here's what I'm going to transition into is in reference to the shooting in Wisconsin. Doc Rivers gave a very passionate plea to Black Lives Matter, and it's a great moment of television. It's a little long, so we can't play it here. It's like 2 to 3 minutes. He literally cries. It's something for everyone to see, especially since his dad was a cop, which I didn't even know, and so he has a personal stake in it. And even he is saying the line has been crossed by these police officers. Something needs to be done.
Yeah.
And for him to essentially put his heart on his sleeve and give this passionate plea, it went viral, and then all the sports debate shows talked about it. And one of the best reactions to that is one of my favorite shows, Pardon the Interruption. Michael Wilbon. He gave a great reaction to it and then just boiled it down to what really this should be all about. And I want to play the clip because I think if there's one thing to take away from Black Lives Matter and everything that has happened so far this summer, this needs to be the short-term focus, as Michael Wilbon calls it in this clip. So I want to play it. This is from Pardon the Interruption.
Yes, because the short term, Tony, is to get people to stop killing folks. That's the short term. That's the short term goal. Stop shooting me. Stop. Make it so that I am not afraid to see a police car driving down the Dan Ryan in Chicago or the Beltway in Washington, D.C., or wherever the hell you want to be, the 405 in L.A. Make it so that I can not look over my shoulder at a police car and worry if my son is going to be safe in the car. These are the immediate questions that we are dealing with, and this is the emotion you heard in Doc's voice. And think about the complexity for Doc, the perspective. His father was a cop. I knew Doc's father. I mean, it's so difficult, and the point of view can be different from person to person, but the first goal is stop killing people. And Tony, I told you all spring, I am not singing Kumbaya. I don't believe that the country has made a turn. I don't. Because people are still getting shot.
Yeah, so that was just one of just the most passionate pleas I've seen from the show. So I want to give props to Michael Wilbon for boiling it down to just simply we don't want to the black people and people that are identifying with this movement, they just don't want to be shot.
Right.
Like
exactly. I mean, think about it. There's people who are afraid for their lives.
Yeah.
And we don't have to be afraid for our lives because of our position. you know. But like, take a minute to think about how it affects others. You know, take a minute to think about how, you know, if we get stopped by police, we don't have to give a second thought about it. You know, I think back to the story of my brother wandering around the streets of Ambler with a toy gun strapped to his back, you know, and he gets pulled over by police and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing, buddy?"
Yeah. If that's a black teen, is it the same?
It's a different story, and people don't like to look that in the face and realize it for what it is. But we've seen stories where that's happened before. We've seen the flip side, you know. So that's what people are asking, is to take a second and think about how, you know, different groups of people are affected differently by these issues. To step outside our comfort zone and our bubble and what we know, and acknowledge the fact that different people have different experiences, you know. And there's entire groups, millions of people that are afraid, and they don't want to be shot, they don't want to be killed, like they mentioned in that clip.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
that's a shame to me that you're dealing with a group of people who legitimately are afraid when they either get confronted by a cop or even, I remember reading about this. I forget which article this was off the top of my head, but it was a personal story of this black person who was taught from his family, don't go, I forget which state it was, but don't go into the white neighborhoods, don't go into whatever the town was called, don't, just, you're going to raise too much suspicion. You could be there actually doing your job or delivering a pizza. Don't go into that neighborhood,
right?
Because the cops are going to wonder what's he up to, or other people are going to wonder. You know, it's just mind-boggling. You think that's like something that's in the past, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not. And you're right. And all the information's out there. This is a historical problem in this country, around the world, really. And the information's there. So if you don't recognize it, if you don't accept it, you need to do a little bit more of the legwork to understand it. You know what I mean? It's all there. I'm going to talk about a show later in the episode, Lovecraft Country, that deals with some of these topics. It's a brand new show that just came out on HBO that deals with those issues. We've had tons of entertainment about it. We've had tons of academic writing about it. We've had tons of news about it. If you refuse to stare it in the face and accept it for what it is, that's you know, it's time to face the facts and really assess whether you're thinking about these things as critically and as with open a mind as you should. Yeah. You know, it's time to stop ignoring it, you know, and realize that it's still a thing, and it has always been a thing, and until it gets addressed head on, like these players are doing, by trying to raise awareness by boycotting playoff games.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big, I don't think people realize how big a step that is. That's a big step. These are sacred cows, these 4 big league sports. The money that they bring in, the interest that they draw, the cultural influence and pull that they have, to willingly cancel a playoff game, that's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And for guys like LeBron James willing to throw a chance at a championship out the window in support of this, yeah, it lets you know how monumental this issue truly is. So we'll see how the country reacts after this, but I do feel like Michael Wilbon, that I don't think America has turned that corner yet, and I don't think it will in the next couple of months. So unfortunately,
no, not yet, because even earlier we got reports, you know, that several NFL teams are canceling practices. Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll thinks that, you know, there could be demonstrations during the regular season. The Baltimore Ravens recently released a very powerful and very no-frills statement calling for the arrest and the charging of the officers responsible for the killing of Breonna Taylor. Yeah, that's still a thing. And the shooting of Jacob Blake, amongst other social justice initiatives. And the fact that the officers haven't been arrested or charged for Breonna Taylor, that right there is a huge oversight. But for the Baltimore Ravens to come out and very explicitly state, bullet list style, everybody should go read the entire thing. But this you know, I agree with what you and Michael Wilbon said. This is not like, you know, it's not like we've turned a corner. This is a crossroads, and we need to decide which path we're going to take.
Yep.
You know, we have the opportunity to turn that corner, but we have to embrace these initiatives and, you know, and really take them to heart.
Yep. So that has been the sports boycott headlines that have been dominating the news cycle in the last 2 days. With that major issue hanging overhead, an issue like this now seems secondary, but if this had come out any other week, this would have been the main story. Oh my God, Dan Snyder has even more crazy abuse allegations going his way.
He needs to sell the team.
Yeah. Basically, another article came out pretty much accusing him of sexual harassment, including a very particular story in which he recommended that one of the executive vice presidents go get more familiar with one of the Redskins cheerleaders at a calendar photo shoot, and even going up to the specific calendar girl in question and saying, "Hey, do you know he has a hotel room?" Which,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we said it when the news first broke initially, that if these issues were this pervasive in this organization, executives don't feel that comfortable doing things unless they feel protected. Protected by who?
Or invincible.
Or invincible. The guy up top, who's Dan Snyder, the buck stops with him. The other owners need to come together and force Dan Snyder to sell the team.
Yeah.
Because right now, this is becoming, it's horrible what's happening. And I think finally it might be impacting the NFL as a whole, because it makes the NFL look really bad. And this is the point at which the owners are like, all right, now it's damaging us as well.
Yeah.
You know? And I hate to boil it down to it, but that's the only thing the NFL cares about, unfortunately. I mean, Dan Snyder should sell the team because he's an ass.
Right. That's really it should come down to Dan Snyder should just sell the team because he's a complete a-hole and he doesn't know how to properly run an organization. The last 20 years that they haven't done jack crap this whole time. But
I want to go off on something here. It was actually at dinner. I was talking with my parents. And I know this is like a complete side tangent, but we're talking about, the laws and, social norms and the 10 Commandments and like everything that's supposed to be a guiding force of, well, there's a point of this, a guiding force that's supposed to be how you hold and carry yourself as an individual. And I said, that's so overly complicated. I can boil it down to 4 words. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Whenever you ask yourself,
how's that for being a parent?
is this no? I said that. I said
Yeah.
Don't be, because if you have to ask yourself, is this going to physically, emotionally, or psychologically harm someone? Don't do it. Don't be. And I know it sounds like it's oversimplifying things, but like in Dan Snyder's case, everything that has happened, he has been a raging dick. He should be forced to sell the team, because everything he's done, physically, emotionally, and psychologically damages the other people in his organization. And now it's financially damaging the NFL. So I can't see any reason why he should be allowed to hold on to this team.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ron Rivera, he has done a bang-up job of doing what he can to clean the culture since he got there. And one of the things that he said was, hey, I have a daughter who maybe one day I might ask her to work, with us in this organization. I can't have her be subjected to anything like, any sort of harassment or anything like this. That's not going to happen. Right. So it's very commendable that Ron Rivera has been trying to clean up the mess, but there's so many allegations and skeletons in Dan Snyder's closet that it's just too much, and something needs to be done. He needs to be removed as the owner of the Washington football team. But I don't know if it's going to happen, because it seems like every time a scandal comes up, he's able to slip past it. So
I don't know. There was a lot in quick succession. It was the name change. It was the initial sexual assault allegations, and now this new one. I don't know.
He's essentially being a pimp when you think about this.
Yeah.
Hey, that executive over there, he's got a hotel room. Yeah, make it worth your while, you know. Like,
Yeah,
over there.
that's
literally
exactly what he did. They passed around a DVD of outtakes from the calendar shoot.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
That showed the cheerleaders completely nude. They burned a DVD and passed it around to executives. Like, this is what I mean. Like, it's not even subtle.
Yeah.
It's not.
By the way, just everything in 2020. I want to just a general thing for everybody. Between everything happening in 2020, I'm sorry if I missed details like that, because that would be a bombshell. Like that would be a bombshell story on its own. But I forgot about it because of the other instance.
2018. That's our headline. That's the headline by itself. Yeah. But not in 2020. It doesn't.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, the DVD of outtakes with the calendar girls either being topless or their nipples exposed, and that's why they burned it for the EVPs of the team, which is crazy.
How do you let something like that happen in your organization?
Yeah.
So one of two things: either he's allowing it, ding ding ding, or he's too stupid to realize it's going on behind his back. In either case, he's unfit to manage that team.
Yeah. So like I tweeted out, this allegation that came out this week wasn't a surprise, but it's just downright disappointing and depressing that Snyder has sunk to these depths. And yeah, he should be removed. It needs to be time. But until I see it happen, I'm not going to believe it's going to happen because he's got money, apparently. Money talks. Okay, so if that wasn't enough in the sports world, this would have been the headline if it wasn't for the previous two headlines, because big news happened here in Philadelphia before those two things happened, and that was the 76ers got embarrassed and got swept out of the playoffs, which led to management firing Brett Brown. He had been the head coach of the Sixers for 7 seasons. And now the roster just looks tattered right now, between the fact that the Sixers are paying maximum contracts to Harris, to Al Horford, who apparently didn't do a whole lot in the last couple of games, which is kind of what they brought him in for postseason presence. Apparently that went out the window. And Ben Simmons, I know Ben Simmons got hurt, but you can't get swept. Getting swept is embarrassing. It means you shouldn't have even been there.
You got to luck into one win.
Because by that logic, the Boston Celtics just kind of had a bye. You didn't put up any resistance. You couldn't take one single game away from the series. It's almost more embarrassing than not making the playoffs. You know, you couldn't eke out one win. So basically, the 76ers are just in tatters right now, because anything's on the table now with Brett Brown being fired. You could hire any coach. You could be looking at trading anybody on the roster. The only thing to go by is that Elton Brand, the general manager of the Sixers, said on a morning show that he remains dedicated to Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. So it looks like those two
That's the only thing they got going for the team.
But I don't know. How are you going to offload max contracts to Horford and Harris, who, especially Horford, apparently he's just, that's it. His prime apparently went by when he left Boston.
You know what? Everybody loves a good sequel. The Process Part 2. Let's do it, people.
Well, that's the thing. Is the process over, or are you saying this is a reboot?
Again.
This is a reboot. This is the reboot of the process. Oh, dear God.
Look, it's a disaster. I mean, all those years of tanking and trading away talented players and collecting draft picks and drafting people who ended up being busts. I mean, they tried for so long to get the magic formula, and they thought they finally did. and they still continued to be average or slightly above average at best. But you don't have this many top picks and be above average. You gotta transcend to the next level.
So I read a very interesting stat, and I'm gonna say this because I think I was right. I was really upset when we lost Jimmy Butler to free agency, and I really said that's gonna doom this team.
Yeah.
So here's what I found. There's a statistic that measures efficiency over 100 points. So this number gives you, are you above or below your competitors 100 points.
Okay.
The year that they had Jimmy Butler and made it all the way and came within a shot of losing to Kawhi Leonard last year, they were plus 16. So that means on average they were scoring 116 to 100, okay. Right? This season, even with the additions of Al Horford and signing Tobias Harris to a max contract, and this was supposed to be the big four, even at full capacity with Ben Simmons, they were 101 versus 100.
Yeah.
It's clear this team just did not gel together, or these four players did not just didn't meet their expectations. So
you know what it is? People think you can just add players and it makes magic.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work. I mean, look when the Eagles tried it with the Dream Team. Look at, Dallas now, just adding all these players. I use football examples. That's all I got. The point that I'm getting at here is that there has to be a certain amount of buy-in, right, to the system. There has to be a certain commitment.
Belief.
To doing things right. A belief to doing things the quote-unquote the Sixers way. And what happens is when you do something like the process, you create a culture of losing, and you create a culture of this laissez-faire, lackadaisical approach to everything. And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't that one of the issues that Jimmy Butler had with the team? Mm-hmm. Is that there was no fire. There was no holding people accountable. It's because
Jimmy Butler was the fire.
It's because these players were brought up during the process. So they were taught not to care. They were taught to lose. They were taught it's okay to just give it 75%.
If you miss a couple shots in a row, don't worry about it. Or
right. So just
how about just going back to Ben Simmons? He still can't shoot a jump shot. Oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll just make you a power forward. Hello, we're paying. He's supposed to be the centerpiece of the offense, and he can't shoot a jump shot.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're doomed. They're doomed. They need to start over. They need to start over again.
Oh my God! It's 2020.
For as good as Embiid and Simmons are, they just whatever it is, this team lacks that cohesion. They lack that vision. They lack
just go back to that. Instead of focusing on Ben Simmons developing his jumper, no, let's just move him to power forward and we'll go from there. And don't worry about it.
Yeah.
No, sorry. And also, this is now a league that is highlighting the three-pointers. This is a league that's going smaller.
It's a shooting league.
Yeah. And instead, we're playing like it's the 90s and we want big guys.
Yeah, drive to the basket. Nobody drives to the basket anymore.
Not really.
It's all perimeter stuff.
Yeah.
Isn't that how Golden State won infinite number of championships?
3 out of 4. Not infinite, but still pretty good.
Infinite.
Yeah. The Splash Brothers, yep. So, there you go. Unfortunately, I think if you're a Sixers fan, what Mikey said is right. It's going to be a reboot of the process. I think it doesn't look good.
Rich, is there any positive news in sports?
No, because now we're going to talk about the Eagles.
That's right, folks.
Yeah.
We do have a little bit of football news here for the Eagles.
Yeah.
We made the announcement.
This actually just broke before we started recording. The Eagles are announcing there's going to be no fans, at least for the first couple of home games at Lincoln Financial Field, which isn't a surprise, but, oh, man, I don't know how Eagles games are going to be. I don't know how the Linc is going to even be the same. What are you going to do, pipe in noise?
Isn't that what some of the other leagues are doing, it sounds like?
Some of them are trying to do that.
It's so dumb because I watched a little bit of it, And I'm like, that's just fake crowd noise.
Yeah.
Like, who are you trying to fool? You know, it's
Yeah.
going to be super, super awkward. But that's okay. There's no fans at the games. They won't be able to see our disastrous offensive line because if Brandon Brooks being out for the season isn't enough, now Eagles starting left tackle Andre Dillard is out for the season with a torn biceps.
Woo! There goes our offensive line, folks.
So we got 40-year-old injured Jason Peters sliding back to his old spot at left tackle from his new spot at left guard. It's just, I want the season to be canceled. It's going to be a train wreck.
Yeah.
It's going to be a train wreck.
Yeah. But unfortunately, the NFL is going to keep trying. So, good luck.
You realize we would be gearing up for week 1 right now in previous years.
Yep. So much
We'd
for
be
that.
talking about the preseason. We'd be talking about the final roster.
I'd be talking fantasy football.
We got nothing.
Yeah. So, there you go. What a legendary sports segment we had there. Just everything going crazy. So, you know what? Let's leave the sports realm. Let's see if we can find anything to brighten our spirits and entertainment. I know this is a story Mike is following closely, so I will let him have the floor. We have another update on Epic Games versus Apple. Mike, what's the latest?
Yeah, on the eve of potentially Apple revoking all of Epic's developer access to the App Store, a few more updates have come out in this story. Apple hit back against Epic, saying that Epic was actually seeking side deals with Apple. They're trying to paint Epic in a bad light. But this actually backfired on Apple because Epic then revealed that in asking for these side deals, they were also asking Apple to revisit their App Store policies in general. So Apple tried to make Epic look real bad, like, oh, look, they're trying to go behind everybody's back and make side deals that better themselves. But Epic revealed the full email where they go into all the other things they're asking Apple to reconsider. But that doesn't matter because according to the courts, a judge, split it half and half. They said that Apple can take down and keep down Fortnite, that Epic doesn't, that they're not granted amnesty to get Fortnite back on the store, but that Apple can't revoke access to the developer tools for Unreal Engine. So Unreal Engine can continue to use the developer tools, but that Apple can take down Epic's own games. So it's this weird middle ground where it's like Apple can, prevent Epic from selling their own games, but they can't prevent Epic from using the tools for their game engine because other developers use those tools as well, and it would be creating an undue burden for those other third-party developers. This is a very, very messy situation. In the middle of all that, Microsoft comes out making a statement that, of course, supports Epic Games here. I don't think anybody expected them to go any other way. This just continues to be a really messy situation. These two companies going back and forth. I don't know. I mean, tomorrow we could see Epic's developer account revoked for the App Store and potentially all their games removed. It's going to be a very interesting situation to see which one caves first and which one jumps out of the way of this speeding train. Because it's a game of chicken. Who's gonna bow out first?
Yeah.
Who has more firepower? Who's willing to go the distance? Because I think it's a lot of bluster, as it usually is with these big companies.
Well, what was the deadline? I think wasn't there a deadline
Tomorrow.
Uh-oh. Well, we'll find out tomorrow
if you're listening to this on Friday, the deadline's already passed. If you're watching this live Thursday night, yeah, this is the eve of the deadline before Apple pulls the plug and goes nuclear on Epic. So,
all right, keep an eye on that. Yeah,
keep an eye on that. But for right now, the big news is that Fortnite stays off the Apple Store, but that the Unreal Engine used by other developers can continue to use those developer tools. So, it's a weird sort of split decision there.
Yeah. Okay, so there you go. At this rate, we'll probably have another update next week. So
probably
stay tuned for the latest edition of Epic Games versus Apple, the saga. All right, now with that in mind, the other entertainment bit that has been going on revolves around DC Comics they have just put out a lot of crap this past week. Mike, where do you want to start? Because literally, it's video games, it's movies. There's so many things.
DC made a lot of announcements. They had their fan conference. I don't remember what it's called because I don't care about DC all that much. But
good job, Mike.
Yeah, no, DC has always been your realm, so I'm more interested in getting your opinion on some of this stuff. But let's start with the video game news first, transitioning from the Epic and Epic fight to more video game information. So we've all been eagerly anticipating the next entries in the Batman Arkham game series. There's a lot of rumors that Rocksteady could potentially be making another one, or maybe another developer could be making another Arkham game. It turns out nobody's making another Arkham game when they revealed 2 new Batman universe video games. First up is Rocksteady's new game, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This is a 1 to 4 player multiplayer game. They classify it as a shooter, and this is connected to the Arkhamverse, which makes it interesting that they're bringing the Suicide Squad directly into that series. I don't know how they're going to connect it because the Suicide Squad isn't strictly Batman.
Right.
So I know Harley Quinn is a big player in it, but it's interesting that they're bringing the whole Suicide Squad in. There were other side characters that they could have focused on. Instead, they decided to go with the more edgy route. The other game that was announced by, I think it was WB Montreal, is Gotham Knights, which is a 1 to 2 player co-op game focused on Batman's sidekicks. Robin, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Red Hood, I think.
Yeah, Red Hood, yep.
Now, this is not connected to the Arkhamverse, which is, you think it should be the other way around, right? Yeah. That Gotham Knights should be connected and Suicide Squad shouldn't be connected. Now, there's a lot of fear and trepidation here because people see these 2 games go multiplayer and this focus on multiplayer, and people are wondering, are these games going to be games as a service? Like Anthem and Destiny and I can't even remember the other ones. There's so many of them now. But WB Montreal came out and said, no, don't worry. Gotham Knights is not a games as service. You can enjoy the whole thing single player. Don't worry. They're trying to quell the fears. But fears still persist because, these Batman series that were known for their brilliant single player narrative driven storytelling are now going multiplayer. And there's nothing inherently wrong with going multiplayer, but it does raise some concerns. And I wanted to get your opinion because I know you're a huge fan of the Arkham series. I'm a huge fan of the Arkham series. Can you see them transitioning successfully from a single player narrative, very dark, grim, moody game to a very fast paced multiplayer type experience?
So I want to quell actually a couple of your concerns. I'm glad that this broke down the way it broke down, that Rocksteady's game still has elements of the Arkham universe. That makes sense to me because Rocksteady invented the Arkham universe. So it makes sense that they stay in their own continuous loop, and then It's up to them how much it directly impacts the events of all the Arkham games. And then I like the fact that WB Montreal is doing their own universe, no relation, so they have total creative freedom to do whatever they want. I think it works out better that way. I know on paper maybe it doesn't seem that way, but
it sounds counterintuitive.
But I think
you have all these DC properties, shouldn't they mesh?
But I think in terms of video game developing, this really makes sense. This is the way you want to go. Have WB Montreal do their own thing and don't try and create a sequel to Arkham Knight or anything like that. And then have Rocksteady still, if they want to borrow things from their universe, they can. But they can still create the same kind of game that they're used to doing. I think it makes sense on a video game level. Maybe not on paper, as you mentioned, but in terms of video game developing thinking, that's the note you want to hit. So I'm actually glad that it broke down that way. In terms of this turning into a multiplayer-based game, I'll leave it up to Rocksteady. They haven't really proved, they haven't really thrown out a clunker yet. So I mean, they have the levity that I think that they can, they might be able to pull it off, and we'll give them a fair shot at doing one of these games.
You know what? I guess my thing is that as soon as I see the fact that they right away open with the fact that it's multiplayer, in the past several years, every time that I've seen a game open with that as like their leading selling point, it always ends up not exactly. Maybe I shouldn't say not good, because I guess there are some people out there that it really does speak to. But I'm just disappointed that they had these amazing single player experiences, and now with the focus on multiplayer comes, the potential focus on, I can just see it like microtransactions, like getting new skins for the Suicide Squad and, boosters and all this nonsense. It's inevitable. I know they say it's not going to be games as service, but at what point do you come up against, and because they're all open world, all drop in, drop out multiplayer, these are all the buzzwords they're using. So what point in the story do you come up against a mission where, it's only for, multiple characters? You can't face it alone because it's either too tough or you don't have enough gear or levels or whatever it is. So that's always my concern when I see games like this. And it's the same thing with Marvel's Avengers. I'm looking at that game, which is getting ready to release in a few weeks. I saw some gameplay footage of it, and I'm like, I'm just not sold, because at a certain point, they say you can play it all single player, but at a certain point, there's going to be content that you just can't do solo. And the other issue that I have is, where does the story go in games that are multiplayer? Because I remember playing the Anthem beta and the Anthem alpha, and this was a BioWare games, renowned for their story. And I remember one of my first sessions in the beta, and there were, the characters were saying something, and all of a sudden, snap to a loading screen because somebody was rushing ahead because they already beat the mission and they're just grinding it for loot, so they don't need to hear the story. So I was dragged out of the story to continue on with the gameplay. And this is a decision point here. This is like, a crossroads here. Do they want to focus more on the gameplay, or do they want to focus more on the story? Because when you go multiplayer, I haven't seen it done well, where it's both multiplayer and narrative driven. So they have to make a decision. Is this going to be flashy, focused strictly on the combat and the mechanics and the gameplay, and then the story falls the wayside, or are they going to force people to play the story and potentially hinder the gameplay and the multiplayer aspect? I feel like it's an either or thing. I haven't seen it done well.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is that a concern for you?
It is.
Bloom, but
it is, because I'm usually I would rather have a single player game than try and do a multiplayer game. But I mean, it's possible. I love Grand Theft Auto Online. There are games that can toe that line, but it's very difficult to do so. So we'll have to see. I trust Rocksteady. I think they've earned the rope. They get a chance to try and do it. So we'll see how they handle it. But all that aside, that hasn't even touching the massive DC bomb that they unleashed in terms of their cinematic universe, because this went crazy viral. 2 movies coming out from DC about Batman. The first actually had a trailer, The Batman, Robert Pattinson. Actually looks pretty good, I think. I thought I was really surprised by how well it looked. So we'll see if that lives up to expectations. But the bigger news is a planned second possible Batman movie. It's not really a Batman movie. We'll get into that. But apparently DC is opening the books for not just a cinematic universe, but now a cinematic multiverse, because they've announced that they want Michael Keaton to come back and Ben Affleck to come back, and they are both going to play a version of Batman in different universes. This is also tying into the fact that they are also inquiring about other actors that played previous DC heroes: Steel, Jonah Hex, Catwoman, Green Lantern, stuff like that. they want to throw all of that into a blender, the two Batmans in a blender, and then to top it off, a healthy dose of the Flash, because the Flash, since he runs so fast, has the ability to warp universes. Throw it all in a blender, and DC is on the verge of trying to create a multiverse. I guess I'm trying to figure out where do you put movie in this, because I was saying cinematic universe, so I get
cinematic multiverse.
But then I lose the alliteration. I was trying to get movie in there. Movie multiverse. Does that sound
movie
right?
Multiverse. Yeah, that sounds right.
So the DC movie multiverse. Mike, what do you think of this big blended hunk of crap?
This speaks to the larger issue of, and this is sort of what I was hitting at with the game announcements. DC doesn't know what they're doing. they really don't. Everywhere that Marvel, everywhere that Marvel does it right, DC seems to do it wrong. DC is best when they're completely hands off. So to give you examples, Marvel does it right in letting Insomniac make the Spider-Man game. DC did it right when they let Rocksteady do the Batman games. But then DC's like, oh, wait, we can really get our fingers in here and make it great. And they start tinkering around and moving the pieces. DC did it right when they let Nolan do whatever he wanted to do.
Yep.
And they decided Wonder Woman, oh, it's a female hero. She's not going to sell anything. Do whatever you want to do. It ended up being amazing. But the ones that they really focus on, oh, Aquaman, it's going to be great because it's, it's a hunky male character that women will want to go see, and it's cool and it's flashy, and it's, whatever. And Justice League, same thing. Suicide Squad, same thing. Everything that they put their hands in turns to shit. It's like the opposite of Midas's touch. Instead of turning to gold, it turns to crap. So both these announcements speak to my same issue in that DC's way too involved. They need to take a step back. This whole multiverse thing, it could work. It could be crazy enough to work. I think sometimes we take comic book movies too seriously because comic books are ridiculous. Characters die and come back from the dead like 100 million times.
Yeah, they gotta sell new comics.
How many times has Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man all died and then come back?
Yeah.
How many different versions of have there been of these characters? So the multiverse thing, if done correctly, could work. I doubt that it can be done correctly, though. I think the Flash is actually a smart move because on the CW, the Flash is really popular. They're like 6-7 seasons into this Flash TV show, which I've never watched, but it's really big for DC. So they're right to key in on that. They're going to try and bring that TV audience to the theaters. That's the demographic they want to hit. They want to hit that teen demographic and bring them into theaters and try to get them into the movie multiverse. It just seems like way too many moving parts for them to be able to wrangle because they didn't plan it from the beginning. It's one thing when Marvel's like, okay, we're going to bring all this together. And you see in the very first Iron Man, the little breadcrumbs that they left, and all throughout. But DC didn't do that. They now are they up to 3 Batmen, 4 Batmen?
Yeah. Is there going to be an army of Batmen?
This is like, it's as laughable as Spider-Man was until Marvel made Spider-Man awesome again. They need a visionary group to make Batman great again. They can't just throw every Batman at the wall and hope one sticks.
Yeah, so do you want my opinion of this?
Sure. Jesus Christ, he's got props, people.
Thank God for alcohol.
Thank God for alcohol.
Yeah.
Are you going to need that in the theater?
Yeah, because this sounds like just way too many things happening. I think it's a little bit interesting trying to get Michael Keaton back, considering he played a villain in the Marvel universe. So
why not Christian Bale though? They skipped over one of the best Batmen.
He's too busy yelling at his assistants. But I don't know about all these other people they're trying to bring. I mean, Come on, Steel. Are we really gonna call Shaq? Shaq is gonna come back for this.
Green Lantern, his movie flopped
Yeah.
way back when.
Yeah, like there's kind of a reason why some of these movies flopped. They weren't interesting. I don't think it's, I don't know, maybe if you do it as like a 5-minute, as they only have a certain amount of lines in this multiverse movie, maybe that's enough to cleanse the palate, but I don't know. This sounds like just too many things happening all at once. I know it's supposed to be a multiverse movie, but I don't think that excuses them. And I think it's like what you said, Mike. The more DC has their hands directly involved in a movie project, the more it seems to just not work. The best DC movies are the ones that they do not have a direct stake in. Look at Joker.
The Nolan Batman's Joker and Wonder Woman.
Joker.
Yeah.
I rewatched Joker the other day. It's one of those movies you don't want to watch too much because it is depressing. But Joaquin Phoenix was amazing. And he deserves that Best Actor Oscar. And DC was literally just like, oh, you want to make a Joker movie? Sure. Just don't go over budget and go ahead.
We saw DC's version of Joker in Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that was weird. So, DC, I don't know what you're trying to do. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to catch up to Marvel, but I don't know where you're getting these ideas from. I mean, it could work with the Flash because he can travel into multiple universes, but this sounds like just too much. It sounds like another Suicide Squad. It sounds like too many things happening, and not enough cohesion for it to actually be a single storyline. It sounds like Suicide Squad again.
Yeah, this is what they need to do. Instead of trying to make sense of the previous canon, they need to hit the reset button. The only way this works is if it's a fix forward. You can't start dragging the past back into it because they're going to try and, to go back to our plot hole and loose thread conversation, they're going to start trying to plug in pieces and tie knots places, and it's never elegant. It's always the C-3PO at the end of episode 3.
This is going to be your worst nightmare of a movie then. I just realized that.
Rich, every single line is going to be wipe the protocol droid's memory. Because that's what happens in the multiverse when it's not planned out from the beginning.
Yeah.
Marvel planned their stuff out from the beginning. Yeah, they sort of winged it at times. But DC is taking an entire movie history and they're going to try to write a plot around all those disparate canons.
Here's the difference. Marvel is sitting down with Jon Favreau and some of the Russo brothers, and they're sitting together at a conference table, and they're working through it, and they're writing things down and bouncing ideas off of each other in a boardroom. DC is Charlie Day with the movies listed out on the board, and they're trying to use the red string to try and connect. Oh, Michael Keaton was over here, but maybe if we put him in the Flash, maybe we could connect this into one bigger movie. And then, Ben Affleck shows up, and Shaquille O'Neal's there, and maybe he can. That's the difference between these two movies, as far as I can see.
I hate to sound doom and gloom and like I'm just a Marvel fanboy, but the reason why Marvel's so successful and makes us care about heroes like Doctor Strange and Black Panther, who cared about those, and Guardians of the Galaxy, you couldn't even tell me their names, is because they think about how they're connected to everything. They make them relatable human characters, even though they're not sometimes, and they connect them to the wider universe. This is the opposite. They're trying to take all these separate things and they're trying to find a universe that they can all fit into. They're trying to take pieces from different puzzles and make one picture out of it.
Yeah.
So, pardon the doom and gloom and the Marvel fanboyism. I don't see it working. Maybe if they really lean heavy into the comic book absurdity and just really embrace like the ridiculousness of comics, maybe they could pull it off if they add enough camp, if they add enough eye-rolling sci-fi mumbo jumbo and jargon. they might be able to pull it off. If they try to make it like grounded and real, like DC always tries to do, I don't think they stand a chance in hell.
Yeah. As much as I'm a big fan of Batman and some of the other DC properties, I don't see this panning out. But we shall see. DC is determined when they have a movie idea and they're determined, they just go for it. So
I'm telling you, I see the same thing happening with their games too.
All right. Well, we'll see.
It's DC's MO. They put their little fingers in everything and ruin it.
Yep. So we'll see how all that unfolds. All right. So we hit you with a lot of sports news, a lot of entertainment news. Let's end it on something light. I've got some odd news for you. And guess what, Mike? We are going to go to Florida. So, Mike, I need you to say your catchphrase. Go ahead.
Who is this effing guy in Florida? It's Florida, and they're crazy.
There you go. Yep, we're heading back to Florida. And we're going to deal with another F word that has to do with Florida.
Mike, fun times?
Mike, can you imagine an F word that has to do with Florida and the odd news? That's not a curse word?
Fornication?
No. 4-letter word.
4-letter word? Wow, Rich, you really... I mean, obviously the F word is the first one that pops into mind, but can't be that.
But not a curse word. Nope. It's not
a curse word.
Nope.
Foot.
Nope. Something just basic. A basic odd news story.
Basic odd news story?
Something that's juvenile humor.
Juvenile humor?
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank here. What could it be?
F. Give me an F. Give me an A. Give me an R. Give me a T. Fart. Yeah, we're doing a good old-fashioned fart story because everyone laughs at farts. Okay. But I found the one person that apparently doesn't laugh at farts. A Florida woman was arrested yesterday after she hit her father due to the strength of his flatulence, according to cops.
Come on.
Getting into an actual fight over a fart.
That's so dumb. What a waste of time.
According to the arrest affidavit, 40-year-old Nicole Dozos shares a apartment with her 59-year-old father in Largo, which is outside of Tampa Bay. Okay. Around 2 a.m., Dorzos became angry with her father after he released, quote, a nasty fart, according to the police report. Dozos then attacked her father numerous times. Upon arriving at the residence, cops noted that the victim had a bloody nose, a black eye, and scratches all over his neck.
This is all over a fart?
A fart.
Oh my God.
Wow. This must have been one of the worst farts ever.
Like the flowers start wilting right then and there.
She's legit starting a fist fight.
Over a fart.
Black eye, bloody nose, and scratches on his neck.
Man, okay. That's not one step too far. That's like 7 steps too far. You know, I can understand if you fart and somebody gives you a quick whack, you know, a smack on the shoulder or a shove or like a playful punch. But this is straight up assault over a fart.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't know. You tell me. I've never smelled a fart strong and nasty enough to warrant physically attacking someone. Have you? I've never experienced a stench that foul.
No, I don't think so. Not enough to actually cause a fist fight.
That's like a whole level of rage.
That's almost like you crap your pants.
Yeah, but even then I'm not being moved to fisticuffs over it.
Yeah. If a fart is that bad, that's like the dude almost crapped his pants. You're worried that like he's got crap in his pants. You need to get him out of your house.
Right? If I smelled something that bad, I'd be like, you got to get up so I can make sure that you're not leaking through to the couch.
Yeah. I don't want any remnants on my furniture.
No, absolutely not. But I don't think it smelled that bad. I think this person was just looking for an excuse to start a fist fight, honestly. And the fart was just it.
And she started it with her dad. She always wanted to have a fist fight with her dad.
Yeah, she's just, he's just sitting there, and she's like, man, I can't stand him the way he's sitting there minding his own business, being a peaceful, kind person. Then he farted, and she goes, "That's all the excuse I needed." Just lays into him. That's it. That's the straw that broke
I've
the
had
camel's
enough.
back. Yeah.
How dare you? She was arrested for domestic battery and booked into the county jail.
Yeah.
She is pleading not guilty.
Of course she is. Nobody ever admits to their stupidity.
So
she
thinks she's gonna fight this in court and win.
Was she gonna claim like self-defense?
Yes, it's self-defense. Yeah.
The fart was an assault on me, so I had to defend myself.
The fart was a attack of the smelling peripheral, and I needed to defend myself.
With an air freshener. or Febreze. This is the thing. You can't punch a fart away.
No.
You can't, it's not like a cartoon where you see like a green cloud waft towards you. You just punch the cloud away. Get an air freshener. Get some, spray.
Yeah. Get some. How about matches? Matches work.
A candle. Light a candle. Yeah. Go cook some food. Leave the room. Plug your nose. Waft the air. Punching doesn't help. The stink is still going to be there.
Yeah.
The stink has already been smelt. The stink has already been stank.
As is tradition on the Crispy Compact Communiqué, I have her mugshot. So let's see if it works on the screen. Yeah, there she is. She's on the Super Star Destroyer.
She looks like Darth Sidious.
She is patrolling the Super Star Destroyer to make sure nobody is passing gas in the bottom rung with the captains.
She does not look happy.
By the way, that would be a horrible place in that little ring to lay a fart in the Super Star Destroyer.
Oh, down there in that second level?
Yeah, because there's there's the poor astrophysicists and engineers. Yeah, they're stuck down there.
Yeah, so if people aren't watching the video of this, there's like a circular, almost like a giant well. And around the outside is where people walk, and then set into it down below is, I guess, where people are all doing their engineering and sciencey stuff. And Rich is saying somebody should fart inside that well and kill everybody.
That's it. Yeah. If it's that bad of a noxious gas that she's claiming, yeah, that would be game over, man.
That'd be game over, man. Yeah. The rebels don't even need to take down the Star Destroyer. The Star Destroyer just explodes by itself.
Maybe that should have been a new way to attack some of these Star Destroyers.
That's episode 10.
Yeah. What you can see here is the ventilation ducts can lead to specific noxious gases being sent through the facility.
Are you supposed to be Admiral Akbar?
Yeah, I was trying to.
Is that what you're going for?
I was trying
to.
It's
a trap. It's a fart.
It's a fart. Send the fart down the ventilation shaft, and it will
use the fart, Luke.
And it will permeate through the Super Star Destroyer.
So does Luke have to land his X-wing and press his butt cheeks against the exhaust port and fart into it? I'm just trying to understand. But he's outside in space. Does he die then? Does he put a spacesuit on? Like how? Tell me, Rich. Elaborate on your world.
Well, he has to get the X-wing to attach onto the Super Star Destroyer. Then he can ladder down and get into the ventilation shaft. And we know ships have ventilation systems because in episode 1, the Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan escaped through a ventilation shaft.
That's true.
Episode 1 finally had something worthwhile.
See that? They've been laying the breadcrumbs all along for how episode 10 is going to end. I'm telling you.
And then the fart device is the new Phantom Menace.
The fart device?
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right, this is getting wildly off the rails.
Yeah.
But just like that woman did. I mean, who resorts to fist fighting over a fart? Again, I've never smelled a fart that foul. I've smelled some foul farts before, but never one that moves me to fisticuffs.
Yeah.
That's just absurd.
All right. You know what? what a roundhouse array of topics. We had serious discussions over police brutality, and then we moved to Epic Games and Apple and DC, and we ended with farts. This is the Crispy Noodle Podcast.
We've said it in weeks past. We start out real smart, we end real dumb.
That's right. Before we wrap it up, is there any apocalypse activities that you want people to keep an eye out for this week, Mike?
Yeah, two quick mentions. I know we're both big fans of the game Control here on the podcast. The final DLC is out this week.
Woo!
So you can go give that a shot. It ties together Control with the developer's previous game. They're starting their own game universe. That's like the big thing now, is starting universes out of stuff. So go check out the
DC was
Control
just
DLC.
like, how about we do many universes? Wow.
Yeah, right. They're like, everybody's trying one universe. We're going to make all the universes.
Yeah,
sure.
take that.
I also have been watching a new show on HBO called Lovecraft Country. It's really, really cool. This is one of those types of shows that I would have covered in This Week in Entertainment if this were a regular show. But it is a weird science fiction show about a young black man who comes home from, I believe it's the Korean War, and his father's gone missing. So he goes on an adventure to try to find his father in this mysterious New England town that's not on any of the maps. And a lot of the weird science fiction and horrors based on H.P. Lovecraft's work, like Cthulhu and cults and omens and, monsters and insanity. So there's a lot of really cool, mind trickery and very eerie, ominous things, but it also has a great vibe to it because J.J. Abrams and Jordan Peele are executive producers on the show. It's getting a lot of great critical praise. It's scoring in the low to mid 8 out of 10s. It could be HBO's next big thing. And we talked earlier about those social justice issues, and this show deals with them directly about a young black man going on a cross-country journey and dealing with what that entails. So it's juxtaposing the science fiction horrors with the horrors of humanity. So, it's science fiction, it's monsters, it's a personal tale, it's relevant, real life issues. It's got a lot of great stuff that makes a good show. So I highly recommend Lovecraft Country on HBO.
All right. And the thing I'm going to recommend is Lucifer on Netflix.
Okay.
This was interesting. This was a show that originally debuted on network broadcast television, I think Fox. Mm-hmm. The premise is pretty cool. It's actually a DC property that the devil...
That they don't care about, right?
Right. But actually, you're right. They didn't really give this much of a thought. The devil gets bored in hell, so he decides to go to, out of all places, Los Angeles.
Okay.
And from there, he gets into various conniptions involving humans, involving other angels, other demons, and other things like that. The first season, here's the way I'm going to say how you should watch it. The first season is good to get the lore, the basics down, everything like that. The basics, everything like that. Second and third season, Fox was in charge, and they turned it into more of a police serial as opposed to instead of focusing on the devil himself. There's a couple.
That's a weird angle.
Yeah. So it got canceled on Fox, but then Netflix picked it up, and Netflix just kicked its ass the right way, and season 4 is amazing. They actually have an overarching storyline that happens throughout season 4. It's amazing. They get away with more stuff because they're not on broadcast TV.
Okay.
So yeah, this is a case of Netflix saving a really good show. And season 5 just came out this past weekend, and Rachel and I watched the entire thing because it was that good.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So And Rachel turned me on to the show, so I gotta give her props. So yeah, Lucifer, great show. I would highly recommend it. Maybe you don't have to watch the second and third seasons because that was when it was stuck in limbo in purgatory over at
Staying
Fox.
on theme.
There you go. That's how I should end it. All right. So there you go. With that, it is time to wrap up this episode. Thank you guys for watching the Crispy Compact Communiqué. If you like what you heard, make sure you go to our website, thecrispynoodle.com. Make sure you're following us on all the social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the whole shebang. If you want to follow us individually on Twitter, I am at Rich Liebig, RichLiebig.
I'm at Mikey Costanzo, MikeyCostanzo. You can also subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, where you get these video podcasts if you missed out on the live broadcast. But also, if you're an audio-only listener, you can still download the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. So the point is, search for, download, and subscribe to the Crispy Noodle podcast on either YouTube or the podcast service of your choice. We're everywhere. You have no excuses.
Yeah, that's right. And if you're, next week is Labor Day weekend. So if you're driving to the beach or anything like that, you can find us on all those podcast channels and listen to us on the go. Why not?
That's right.
But for right now, we are well over our hour. We had a lot of news to cover.
We did.
A lot of news to cover this week. I'm also running out of beer, so I need to go stock up. So let's end this episode. This has been the Crispy Noodle Podcast. Let us be the Crispy Noodle in your vegetarian salad of life and boring news. Anything else you want to say, Mike?
No, that's it. Another good show in the books.
That's right. My shirt is represent LaSalle. Woo!
Okay.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, that'll do it. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys
Later. Bye-bye.